It's impossible to separate the climate crisis from inequality and injustice, but there is hope for change. Lisa Manley, Vice President of Sustainability at Mars Inc. and a longtime social and environmental activist, will talk about why she's hopeful about the climate justice movement.
Hi, my name is Lisa Manley, and I am the Vice President of Sustainability at Mars. I'm coming to you today from our global headquarters, which are in McLean, Virginia. It's actually the first time that I have been back in our office in a number of months. I'm excited to be here because I'm talking with you about a topic that I am increasingly passionate about. And that topic is climate justice. I've had the privilege of being a climate advocate and a social justice advocate inside big global companies for most of my career. I think working inside a big company is where we can really drive meaningful action to combat climate change and to deal with climate justice as well. If I go back a little bit through my path, I can remember one of the first big campaigns that I worked on was at COP15, the Conference of the Parties on Climate Change, way back in 2009. I was at the Coca-Cola company there, and I traveled to Copenhagen with our CEO. And we were there to launch a campaign that we called Copenhagen. It was a campaign that put hope at the center of climate action. We thought at the time, in 2009, that the global community was ready to come together and to stand together with a major climate deal. Now, we know how that went. The world indeed was not ready to move forward with a major climate deal in 2009. It would take another 6 years and the amazing efforts of a fabulous female leader named Christiana Figueres to bring us to 2015 and the COP21 events in Paris, when finally we did align on a significant global climate deal. Now, flash forward to today, and what we find is that the pace of climate action is far too slow, and we continue to be too fragmented as a global community as we move forward with climate action. And I think part of the reason is that it's time to change the way that we think and the way that we talk about climate change. We must make it more personal, we must make it more human, we must put people at the center. And that's what excites me about the topic of climate justice. Climate change at the core is all about inequality and injustice. For decades, the wealthiest countries, the wealthiest companies, the wealthiest individuals have had the preponderance of the impact on climate change. And it's been poor, vulnerable communities that have borne the brunt of the impact. And we can look at that in many places all around the world, from indigenous communities that day in and day out are fighting to protect their forests, to small island states where people all around the world are fighting against sea level rise, or even closer to home and the wildfires in California, Oregon, and Washington that are devastating the lives for people in those communities. And then, of course, we can't forget Black and Brown communities all over the world, but especially here in the United States, who too frequently find themselves living downstream or downwind from massive pollution. This is climate injustice. It is, in many ways, environmental racism. But I think that there are reasons to hope. I certainly find hope when I look at the actions that young people are taking, the passion that young people have about climate action, and the understanding that young people have about climate justice. For them, it is oh so very real. They understand that their fight for climate justice is their fight for their basic human rights, their rights to be happy, their rights to be healthy, their rights to a prosperous future. While I am incredibly proud of the work that young people all around the world are doing on climate action and climate justice, we can't let them sit on the front lines alone. And this is where I think business really has a huge opportunity to step up and to use our voices and our power to drive for deeper action and deeper humanity. And I think there are two things that business really should be doing at scale and in a concerted way. First, we do need to use the science to guide us with regard to what we are setting in terms of our targets. We need to be moving forward with science-based targets, not just because the science is right, but because when we put our faith in the science, we are also putting our faith in one another and in climate justice. Now, the reality is that today there might be 500 companies that have approved science-based targets. I'm glad that Mars is among them, but 500 is a tiny ripple in the sea of possibility. And we need to move quickly from 500 to 5,000 to 5 million companies that are using science as their guide because it's right for people all around the world. The second thing that we need from business is we've got to use our political power and our voice in a much stronger way around climate action and around climate impact. And here, I think it's our political advocacy that we've got to lean into. Again, I'm proud that Mars is using our voice. We're supporting The Guardian's remarkable coverage right now on the topic of climate action and the topic of climate justice. But we need far more advocacy coming from business about the reality of climate change and the impacts that it has on people all around the world. I think that these are unprecedented times, and we have really stark choices ahead of us. One of those choices is whether we agitate around our differences or we celebrate our connections. I personally believe that we're all connected, and whether it's farmers, factory workers, or families around the dinner table, our futures and our fates are tied to the health of one another and to health of the planet that we share. I am excited and optimistic that we're going to make the right choices. I'm excited and optimistic that climate action and climate justice will prevail. Thank you so much.